Those are the kinds of women that women are walking around with. And God did not want me to stick around with them. A lot of my friends were my age. Some of them were slightly younger. Others were older than me. The older ones were the worst. The older ones were the worst. The ones that fit like 5, 6, 7 years. My goodness. They would gather together and treat me like I'm a child, even though I was extremely mature. If anything, remember I told you in the earlier, that I once had like a whole caucus, a circus of ridiculous females encircling me, telling me how my character is so flawed and how I need to change. Yeah, those were the ones that were my colleagues in the office, and they were older than me by several years. Yeah, I was in my 20s, they were in their 30s, and these women felt that because they were older than me, they were going to talk to me like I am a teenage girl that needs to get her act together and change her ways in order to basically be part of his scheme sabo. I made a decision then to walk out. I could not deal. So across the board, nje, women are just crazy. And the Lord saw this issue back in the day, how it is that unbeknownst to myself, I was hanging out with those who had put garden scissors in my back. So God took me out from society. He was like, I am the Alpha and the Omega, and I care for my children. I'm not gonna rent you out of horrible friendships only for you to just go and make brand spanking new ones. But this time around, you've got so much pain in you that the amount of trauma that you're gonna feel from repeat offenses is going to basically put you in the ground 6 feet. You will end up feeling like there's nowhere to look. You will end up feeling, Karabo, like I don't make any women worth my while. You are going to end up feeling like there's nothing at all possible or feasible or achievable anymore in the female community. There are women that I've set apart. There, with Elijah's promise, there are 7,000 others that have not knelt to Baal. There are women with whom you can ride into the future, that while they might have jealousy against each other, bottom line is, like you, they exercise self-control. They will know not to walk with reviling. Gossiping is a thing. There will be people that are brittling their flesh under the power of the Holy Spirit. And so do a better thing. They will not be perfect, because no one on earth is perfect, but they will be consumable, survivable. They will be edible, palatable. They will be able to be taken in your stride in a way that's going to feel like a breath of fresh air. In the same way that I have worked in you and built character in you, I've also done it with other women. And I will let you know when one comes into your life. If at all she is a keeper, I will let you know. In the same way that when your husband comes, I will let you know. Everything else, I will give you flailing red flags, warning, hazards. Do you understand? Because I do not want you gathering for yourself another Pinky, another Paulina, another Rinelwe, another this. Basically pseudo names that I am using to describe my friends from the past. Ditweba, Amakundwane. Fellowship with women is so precious when it is holy, when it is unfettered by insanity. I have experienced it in the past, but only for as long as it took for jealousy to take over the reins and start driving the show. I have had so many girlfriends come into my life newly met. We've just newly met and we just hit it off like a house on fire. Got on along so well that I thought this one is a keeper for life, like proper. I've had, in my life, perhaps like 4 really solid friendships that were so tight that I never ever thought that this girl would ever pass me shade. And predictably, like clockwork, every last one of those women changed on me literally what appears to be overnight. And the next thing, it was no longer the same thing again. I'm like, I'm not doing this. My mother has experienced a similar thing, but she did not take this matter to God. I prayed about it. I was like, what is it? Especially the ones that hurt me the most were the ones that we were peas in a pod, like birds of a feather, like, tight, like a connection that you build with someone, the kindred spirits. You build it with somebody, and it exceeds that which you build with other women. I've had many other friends before. I would go so far as to say perhaps they like hundreds of girlfriends, maybe tens, but I think it's more hundreds. I've had a lot of girlfriends in my life, but only about 4 or 5 have ever really just been so solid and so strong. Such a bond that was created between us, that when things fell apart with them, it really hurt. And this started happening to me from as early as freaking primary school. From primary school, where it is that I'm like, okay, this is it. And the 5, okay, if I count primary school, maybe make that 10. Like, Papa, you think that this is it, and this is your girl, and then they start to pass you shade. So it turns out this thing is a generational curse, or just an issue, Jeffella, with women. High school, the one girl that I was tightest with in grade 8 started passing me shade in grade 9. The one that I was tightest with in grade 9 started passing me shade in grade 10. The one that I was tight with in grade 10 was good for grade 10 and grade 11, and by matric, grade 10, 11, and matric. I had one really tight, close friend in high school, and then after we went to university, passed shade, did not even invite me to a freaking wedding when I was supposed to be the maid of honor. She invited somebody else, and we used to gossip all throughout high school. Fine, so I haven't always been a consecrated saint. So I used to partake in gossip. The girl we used to gossip saying that her head looks like a butternut, for crying out loud, became one of the only people she invited to her wedding when I was best yakhe throughout high school, from grade 10 to matric. I thought she was a breath of fresh air because the rest of the girls just kept on falling off the wagon and she fell off from after first year. I was so crushed. I was so disappointed. And I took it to God in prayer once I got born again, and the Lord gave me exactly what I asked for in prayer. He took all of them out of the way and essentially promised me a new beginning. I'm not going to gather for myself the same rubbish women in my life. It's not happening for a second time. It's not happening. The VC woman that I mentioned earlier above, she, of course, found out quite immediately after I blocked her because she was surveilling me every day. Do you understand? So she basically found out that I busted her for whatever she was doing to me. Got a little bit embarrassed, but then moved on with her life, but not before afflicting me spiritually and sitting on my fitness content. So God is like, Arabo, if you want to keep on cutting, breaking, blocking, severing random females I warn you about the moment they try to reach out to you, if you keep on cutting them after they break you, girl, the residue is there. The damage is done. And I will continue to allow what they do to you to lodge. I will continue to allow what they do to you to work until you get trained to listen to me and know who not to respond to know who not to accommodate, to know who not to bring into your inner circle. Because when they are at a distance, they will ever look at you as fans while you are the tantamount of a celebrity. But the moment you bring them in, that's when they develop a big head. They become arrogant, and then they look at you like something underminable, underestimatable, something smaller than them, even though you are obviously with grand girth. The way you speak, the work you do, everything I've gifted you with is evident. It is glaring, it is gawking, it is yawning, it is doing a violent speech at some kind of a roadshow. Yet they will act as if though you are minuscule, like a baby, like a child. They will carry you around like you're an infant on their back. And they will make you feel small. Just like those women in your organization that literally sat you down to make you, to literally ask of you to change your personality or not be a part of what they're doing anymore. And you made a better decision to walk away. So if you don't want to have to first deal with mowing that lawn, if you don't want to first deal with mopping that floor and picking up the pieces of your uncomfortable heart that is broken, if you don't want to deal with that, you will listen to me. Because I keep warning you every single time some silly person comes into your life. Like even with the American man that ended up my fiance, I was warned literally on the first day he wrote me. But I ignored the Holy Spirit. Like the word that the Lord told me, I ignored it because I imagined that literally I get too much information on a daily basis from the spirit realm. And I'm not even sure for the better part of the time if it's God talking or if it's the devil. So I'm just going to give people a chance and figure it out later if at all that was God warning or the devil hating. Was it God warning or is it the devil hating? Even though I know the voice of God, I have trained my ear to understand the voice of God, but I ignored. It happened with another dude, another woman, like so many people has God warned me and I ignored. So the Lord is basically telling me at this point that I think, it is time, Karabo, to grow. Papa, you need to stop because your life is so hard. And you are love thirsty and nobody is having your back. No one is looking out for you. You need to stop talking to, accommodating, literally responding to emails from just about anybody. When I've given you a poignant spiritual gifting, I have literally given you so much. You get spoken to from heaven literally every single day. Thanks to your sorrow, your loneliness, your separation, and your isolation, your solitude from society, I have seen it fit to talk to you and keep you company every single day. I am literally sitting with you every day, and I let you know when something rubbish is coming through. Until such time that you start listening to me and stop ignoring me, I am going to allow these fools to come in until you're properly trained. Back in the day, there was this urban legend running around in my community, Gosoweto, growing up. There was this, apparently there was a woman that had a baby that had grown to like 3 or 4 years old or whatever. And this baby refused to walk. This baby refused to crawl. This baby was still on its belly. And the mother one day apparently took the baby and put it in a bed of red ants. And this baby cried and cried and cried until it crawled. It cried and cried until it walked. It cried and cried until it finally started running. And that's how this mother trained her toddler to start basically being a human being and being independent and walking. Of course, it was an urban legend. I don't think it was a true story. But when I was a child, I believed it as a fact. Right? That urban legend is exactly what is applicable in my life today. The Lord has put me in a bed of red ants, and I am crying and crying and crying, and finally I will crawl, finally I will walk, and finally I will sprint. Because what are you doing as a 4-year-old still on your belly? You ought by now be at least running around, even though you keep falling all over the show. Bottom line is you are progressing like other babies. The Lord has told me that, Karabo, I've given you a very pregnant spiritual gifting for you to be able to successfully avoid every ugly rubbish that comes into your life. I have given you a gift of that nature, but you keep accommodating people because you're lonely. You keep accommodating them because you're struggling. You are not going to accommodate any more people. And if you insist, you will crawl and cry. You will literally be on your belly and cry on these red ants until you start to run. You need to know who to keep at an arm's length. Because when you are a certain person, when you've got a certain gifting, when you are of a certain caliber, should I use that word, you can't just have anyone as a friend. A queen cannot just go around in the streets and befriending every last peasant out there in these streets. You need to have certain people in close proximity to you that can be trusted, that have been vetted by some of the most pregnant, screening sessions in the land, because you're a queen. You could have anybody infiltrating you and killing you, for crying out loud, and then next thing, as the monarch of that particular land, you are gone, you've been taken out of the way, and you, without yet having an heir. You cannot be knocked out by fools. You cannot allow yourself to get knocked out by fools because you were foolish as a queen. I've given you a certain calling, and there are only certain people that are allowed to come into your life, into your space. Yours is going to be, for as long as we're still out here in these streets rolling on this earth, before the rapture happens, it's gonna be lonely. You are not going to have tens of thousands of, hundreds of thousands of friends, Karabo, because very rarely do people of a certain profile or caliber ever have lots and lots of friends, lots and lots of people that are just always around them. I've given you a particular gift, and it means that you will not have very many people in your life. So you cannot just accommodate any random buffoon that writes you, every random buffoon that says anything. You literally cannot. You ended up engaged to an animal in the occult. You're going to end up gathering for yourself 5, 10, 15 horrible friends like the ones that you had back in the day if you don't close even women out. And the dream that I had was God warning me about essentially the slew of offense that's going to come my way from women. In this dream, there were 2 such little women. Their disposition, their constitution sort of was tiny. They were small. They had little afros. They looked like a matigoloshi. They were tiny. They were much too small for me, but they had a self-importance about them that was loftier than me. And remember, I'm sitting in this room waiting for my ex to come inside, right? And these women came in, and because I was frozen, I was kind of cold in this environment. I was lonely, I was upset. Remember, I was grumbling even in my dream against God for basically putting me at what would be the tantamount of a underhanded threshing floor, an upside down threshing floor of an upside down Boaz, where I was trying to basically convince a man to do a different thing, do a better thing. And these 2 women came in, and because I hated the position that I found myself in, waiting for this animal to do a better thing, I felt like they were comfort when they walked into the space. They came in and they started to have this house on fire conversation with me, and the anger that I felt inside dissipated. The disquiet, the grumbling in my core, the freezing life conditions, the loneliness, just sitting around waiting for an animal to do a better thing. It all dissipated for all of 5 seconds. And guess what these women prospered to do? First of all, they held a conversation with me, and I spoke with them, and I felt like I was at home in their hearts, that I was loved by them, that I was respected by them. And as they were, and because of me feeling comfortable with them, guess what they made me do? They made me leave my post. They made me leave my post. I was supposed to stay there all night until the AM. This man, if at all he had not responded by the time the night ended, it was over for him. But I knew I had a job to stick around until the night ended. Then only am I free from staking out this place. Then only would I find myself relieved of the duty to stake out this secret society, waiting for my ex-boyfriend to come out of it and do a better thing, okay? Yeah, I abandoned that post. I abandoned that post in my dream. These 2 females, rose up a conversation from the mud, spoke with me, blah, blah, rah, 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 blah, okay? I then found myself following them somewhere, leaving my post. I left my post while my ex-boyfriend was busy staring into this room that I was at. He didn't look like he was about to barge, but bottom line is I had a duty to sit there all night long lest this bugaboo should maybe in hour 3 or 4 decide to do a better thing. Basically what God is giving him a grace period to do. Now, if you leave your post that the Lord has given you, God is not going for the life of him to put somebody else at that post. He's just going to punish you. It happened with Moses. He wanted to reject God's call, burning bush and all. He's like, nah, I'm stuttering. And he was like giving God grief. God was like, I'll give you everything you need. Moses was nearly killed. Do you understand? Because of him basically abandoning his post. His wife, Zipporah, had to stand in the gap for him when the fire of God wanted to kill Moses by circumcising their son as a sacrifice on behalf of the husband. And then Moses went on right ahead to do what under heaven he was supposed to do. So God had like some issues with Moses being like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And the Lord ended up giving Moses a sidekick called Aaron. That would not have happened if Moses had just embraced his gift, all of it, and ran. He would have been the sole proprietor of this particular call. But he decided to put Aaron into the picture. And we all know that while Aaron and Moses were a great team, every so often Aaron, especially when they came together with Miriam in the wilderness, man, they pulled some stunts. And they were not faithful. And even in the wilderness, Moses did not have the sufficient support that he needed. Came back from, is it the Mount of Horeb or whatever. And then there's like this party going on with a golden calf. Aaron could not bridle that. He did not prosper to bridle that for whatever reason. So God, it just ended up plaguing upon plaguing. Moses felt alone. When the Lord gave him instructions, he was grumbling. They hit the rock instead of just like lightly tap it, and now he missed out on entering into the land flowing with milk and honey. That's what happened with Moses. When you don't do things as God has told you to do them, God is not going to like take the job away from you. He will punish you, who is the called one. He does not just decide, okay, Karabo doesn't want to do it, so I'm going to choose Pinky. So if you want to lose out on the land flowing with milk and honey, when Karabo, understand or you are gonna do exactly what I want you to do. Mara, I will make sure that you get punished in some way. So essentially, what was going on in that dream was that I was imagining myself as one who is stuttering, and so I don't want to do whatever God wants me to do here at this burning bush, and so I insist that Jesus gives me Aaron. Aaron. I gotta go out in these streets and walk up and down with Aaron and not be the sole proprietor of this calling, and therefore inherit whatever comes with whatever reward comes with being a sole proprietor of a gift. Yeah, exactly. Cool beans and bananas. So essentially, there is a threat to my inheritance by random females who want to rock up and literally pretend that they are warrior sufficient to help me make war with the kingdom of darkness against this thing. But they are, like I said, they are not workmen approved by God. They have not cleansed themselves. They have not made themselves pure. They have not made themselves usable vessels. And so they qualify as essentially civilians while I am a soldier. And if I insist on bringing one into my boat, I'm also going to look at the land flowing with milk and honey from a distance, while mourning, tearing up on some, but why did I do such a silly thing? Why didn't I trust God? So single-handedly, I apparently, allegedly, am going to prosper to conquer certain structures. And if God wanted me to roam these streets with 2 or 3 or 5 other females to fight this thing, he would have brought them into my ecosystem like the Power Rangers 4, 5, 6 years ago. And the 5 of us would have gone on right ahead to be like fire, air, wind, water, fire, Power Rangers. We would have been the Power Rangers. Instead, I'm out here in these streets rather making like the Incredible Hulk, or making like Hercules, or making like Thor with the hammer. I am a superhero in my individual state. And the evidence of that is the fact that God has not brought anyone along despite me asking. And every time someone appears to be rocking up, they just break my heart, shatter me. But afterwards, I gotta pick up the pieces of my broken heart. These females in my dream, these 2 wannabe Power Rangers, but they were small. The reason why their constitution was so small was God showing me, in comparison to you, they ain't jack. They're gonna bring you down. They're gonna drag you back. They have got secret sins in their lives that they're lying to you about. They are not my servants in the capacity I need them to be my servants. They are full of compromise. And on top of that, they are going to walk with the reviling that is against your life. They are going to secretly low-key gossip you. They are going to allow themselves to fall into the trap of imagining you a radical extremist of some sort. That's too much. They think of you as too much. Your call, your sorrow, everything that you're going through, the weight you are carrying, but they think it's child. They think you put yourself in this position. These women will speak of you like somebody that's just irresponsible. They will look at your life conditions and be like, why is such a smart woman suffering so much? There's something ailing wrong at this woman. They will make you second guess what you're doing. They will make you feel like you're an extremist. Essentially what these women are like Job's friends, who say If at all you are such a righteous man, why is your life so fallen apart? Lacking compassion, lacking sympathy, lacking empathy, lacking correct understanding and right dividing of the word of God, so therefore to gauge that persecution is part and parcel of the Christian church, lacking training in and of themselves, and so they're going to function as insult into the injuries of a person who's already going through much. They will mock, tease, and jar at you, and jeer at you. And in that jeering and that teasing, yours is to make like Job. Pray for them, because they are currently very foolish. But understand that when you get your breakthrough, it'll be your prayers for them and you're standing in the gap for them that will spare their lives, since I was so mad at them. But you have got to get to the end just like Job. You cannot allow these wannabe Power Rangers to rock up in your grill and act as if though they're a team, because they're going to make you abandon your post. You already don't like the post that you are at. You're grumbling. You are bashing your fists at me, and I am quite upset with that. Now, within that grumbling state, you're going to feel comforted by fake comfort. And when it comes your way, patting you on the shoulder, you are going to feel like it's a reprieve when it obviously isn't, because it will feel incomplete. It will feel incomplete. But you will allow yourself to abandon post. You will properly imagine yourself as one that's been rescued from all the tyranny of the past, when it is clear that you are not. If anything, you've entered into a brand spanking new friendship that is exactly similar to all the random rubbish you had back in the day. You are not about to allow another VC to come into your space, because next time, Karabo, you will literally have, fake Christians, lukewarmers, these randos. What they do is that because they feel so uncomfortable with the sins that they're walking in, especially when they're involved in sorcery, they watch a lot of Christian content. And they feel as if though, insofar as they can comment on a Christian video or donate to a Christian ministry, that they're good. So every so often they contact Christian influencers, and if these influencers respond to them, like I said, bringing a fan into the space of your person as a celebrity tantamount, you are causing the spurring up in them of envy, because now they feel like they're in your inner circle, and that envy is going to make them target you, since they are already witches. So if you had kept them at a distance, they wouldn't have bewitched your ministry. They would not have cared to do that, because their guilt over their sin is what's making them watch Christian content. So they're not bewitching Christian content creators across the board. But if they come into your life, since they're not walking in piety, since they have they have abandoned their own posts, they've compromised in some way. They waited on me for a while, and upon them not getting answered prayer fast enough, they ended up doing witchcraft. They're going to covet your piety. They're going to covet your long-suffering, your fortitude, and your patience, and then bewitch you. Now, because the devil knows how people in the occult get triggered, to go back to the occult, like if you are a professing Christian that dabbled in sorcery, and you really desperately want to stop because you realize the ramifications are horrible, the devil knows how to send you back. It's like a drug addiction. Whatever triggers you, whatever gets you to go back, he will do it. So if at all your trigger was jealousy, like a severity, and next thing you went and you sabotaged a person's career because of it, using sorcery, the devil will inspire similar conditions in your ecosystem and cause you to do that which you've been doing everything in your power to brittle. That's why you must not ever allow yourself to fall into a new sin, because understand, new as it might be, it will become the norm. It'll become the norm. If you're not one to masturbate, don't start doing it, because then all of a sudden you're not going to be able to stop. If you're not into watching porn, don't start, because you're not going to be able to stop. He knows how to put a hook in you. So people like the occult, Christians, and I use inverted commas very loosely, that term, that dabble in the occult, my goodness, you are literally being put in a rabbit hole that is going to require of you grander self-control to not go back down that rabbit hole once you want to repent again. So the devil knows how to cause Christians to trip up and fall on their shoe, like literally tying their shoelaces together that they might fall, who have repented from certain sins in the past. So in my particular case, because the devil wants occult practitioners so much to be around Impiluyam, perpetually hexing me, vexing me, and what have you, to also maybe potentially inspire me to join the occult as well, because I've got such hard knock spiritual gifting that would apparently allegedly be beneficial for the devil. He sends me a lot of people who, even though they're not presently practicing witchcraft, they have a history with it, and I'm the trigger. So he's just flooding me with them, and they start out alright, and the next thing I've got witchcraft all up in my grill. It has happened way more times than I can frankly appreciate, and I don't want another little witch all up in my grill, another person that just needs a little bit of jealousy to decide that I'm gonna stop her, someone that's gonna come into my ecosystem as a fan that I was irresponsible enough to accommodate as the said celebrity. I am in too much pain. The streets around me are much too dire. These women in my dream, they what do you call this thing? They removed me from my post where I was supposed to be waiting until the day the sun rose. They removed me from that post, and especially considering I didn't want to be at that post, because like I said, I'm very irritated with my ex. Like, I want nothing to do with him. But apparently, allegedly, God is calling him. So I'm reluctantly doing this work where I'm rebuking this rando, knowing that he's going to come and watch my content. And with this reluctance, there then came these women in my dream, and they made me abandon post, and guess where they took me? Guess where the females took me? And I gladly followed. These women took me to a church that was a combination of Grace Bible Church, Soweto, Rhema in Randburg, Emmanuel Baptist in Florida, some other church back in the day, Debeni, before I got born again, that I went to with some friends of mine when we were on holiday in Durban. Some other church, AME, Kotladi, Soweto, where I grew up. My grandmother used to take us to this AME Methodist church, just down the road. Basically, it was a church that was a combination of every church that I have ever been in since I was a child, all the way up until my redemption. And all of these churches had one thing in common: some form of compromise. I fell out of every last one of them because there is something wicked that they all did. Rema, there was lots of compromise. Wheat among tares, lots and lots of tares than wheat. Compromised message. Lukewarm, seeker sensitive. Same thing with Grace. One up on Rema, but still seeker sensitive. Lots of attitude within the ministry of helps, where there's no real love between brethren. And so when you are trying to serve there, you will get the vibes of competition in Karake High School playground. Emmanuel Baptist, occult activity all over the church, albeit it preaching apparently sound doctrine. The church at KwaZulu Natal, I couldn't even understand what in the world was being spoken for the better part. But I sat there, I was bored, I was lost at the time, I wasn't saved, but I went anyway because we all decided to go to some church of the friend of the boyfriend of one of my girls' friends, and they went to church, so we all just went, but I was bored. Yes, another one was a church at one of my friend's sisters passed away, and right, the church was a mix of that, and I was born again already by the time that I went to this church. And I remember when they were preaching from the book of Job at this funeral, and they were just ransacking it out of like hermeneutical context or exegetical context. They were just messing that scripture up, like in the word that like scriptures in the book of Job, they were messing them up. They were not biblical. They were not rightly dividing the word of truth in that church. Yeah, I could go like all the churches essentially that have just disappointed. I was in a church in this dream, taken there by these women. And I sat there imagining myself as one that's got friends. And guess who we ended up sitting next to in these churches? My mom and my older sister.